You're listening to Between the Lines with Rob Reynolds, brought to you by Compass Health Consultants. We have a plan for you. And now, Between the Lines. Good day, friends. How are you? This is Rob. Hey, I have a really interesting episode today. One of the things that has always been my favorite thing, or one of my favorite things, was being an official, a sports official for high school, junior college, some grade school. But it's just something that I just loved. And I didn't get a chance to do that for a long time. But thanks to the help of some very good friends that were coaches and kind of mentors, I really did get to get immersed with that and had some great stories. Some of the most fun I've ever had in my life was officiating ball games. Now, I did football, baseball, basketball, track. I mean, you had a track meet. But some of the most fun things that I've ever done. And of course, as you would believe, it had its share of funny moments. Now, first of all, I want to kind of go through the different sports and let you know which ones might be the ones that we'd talk about today. First was baseball. Baseball umpiring was one of my favorites, and also one that I probably did the most, both in summer and then a lot of high school ball, a lot of weekend work. Just loved being out on the diamond. But I can remember times whenever when you were behind the plate, you would want to say to the catcher about the third inning when he would say, you get a rapport with these catchers. You get to talking with them, and you get to sharing what they're doing, and they don't have any problem talking to you either. And a lot of times, after about 3 or 4 innings, the catcher would say, "You know what? I just don't know what I ought to call with this guy." I remember a couple of times I'd say, "Well, I wish you'd put down some signal that meant you'd catch it, because I've caught more in the shins than you have." They never did like that too much, but one of the one of the little jobs of being a home plate umpire. And then that ball, that little, as Tim McCarver used to call it, that little white rabbit would tend to find you in places that you couldn't believe didn't have padding. And some places that did have padding, it would still cause a great pain and despair. And without saying anything, I'm just going to let you think about that. Think about what possible areas could be exposed and how you would just try to act like it didn't hurt. When really what you wanted to do is scream as loud as you could. Sometimes you went right from that into the football season, and the football season was always interesting. I remember a time I had a game in Carmi, and you always work as a crew, so we went as a crew, all four of us into this car. I have never seen it rain and rain and rain more than it did. Well, nowadays these teams have these turf all-weather fields, and they may get wet and they may get slick, but they don't get muddy. Well, up at Carmi that night, they did. It was so bad that the flags were floating away. Literally, you'd throw a flag, and by the time you got ready to pick it up, it floated away about 10 yards away. So I remember calling a holding penalty, and went up to the ref. He said, "What you got?" I said, "I got a holding penalty. If I can catch that flag, I'll let you know it was home." I have to tell you though, the most entertaining had to be basketball. I mean, at that time we only had two officials, and as Bob Knight would say, "Oh Lord, two screwed up enough. You don't need three." But we had two officials, and you worked as a partner. My partner a lot of times was Jack Fletcher. We had a blast. I mean, we ate at some of the best barbecue places in Southern Illinois, Central Illinois, it's way down south in Carroll. But he was my partner, and we really had some times. I remember one time they had the old Black Diamond Conference. And boy, they had some people there that had wow, man, they had veins in the side of their neck big as a tree, and you could tell because it was yelling at you most of the time. I remember a game in the Black Diamond Conference. I won't say what city it was in, but you guys can figure it out. I made a call about the third quarter, and the coach just went absolutely berserk. So, I'm all right with that. Except came on onto the floor about 15 feet, which immediately needed a technical. So I gave him one, and he didn't stop. He just kept coming. So I gave him another one. Well, back in that day, you got three, so he was still safe with two. That crowd was crazy. I looked up in the stands, and every one of the radio stations was booing. I looked down a little further, and I'd taken my mom to the game, and she was booing. So I knew it probably wasn't a very good call. Well, that was only Friday night. Back then, you worked Fridays and Saturdays. So Saturdays, we went to another location. This one may have been South 7. I'm not for sure. But I remember walking onto the floor, and the coach met us about the center line. He says, "Hey, boys, I got to tell you, we've had a lot of time. We've had a lot of trouble lately with our officials not being able to hear." And I just looked at him. I said, "Well, coach, that won't be a problem. Usually our complaint is they complain we haven't been able to see." I just thought that was real funny. He didn't. But anyway, it's just another one of those things that goes on. The life of an official. Now, the one thing I want to leave you with is a story that came to me from one of my favorite people in the whole world. Uh, one of my mentors, and it was Coach Pete Truitt. What a classy guy. He did so much for the sport, football, basketball, and anytime he was around, he made it better. But he coached for a long time in Cahokia. And I remember one story he was telling this day where he used to hold court in the coach's room. Everybody loved it. But he was telling this story to where he had this little guard that was controlling the ball, and he came down the floor, and he just was beside himself. I think he threw the ball out of bounds, or he made some kind of a turnover. And he came over to the side, and Coach Truitt called a timeout. And he said, "What in the world? Who are you throwing that to?" He said, "Well, that other team over there, they said I was ugly." he said the other player on his team looked at him and said, "Well, you is." I don't know why I thought that was so funny. But can't you just hear a kid saying that to another kid? "You're not only ugly, you is ugly." One of the many Truitt stories that'll go down forever in my memory. Well, I tell you, we've come to that time. We've come to that time, the end of the line, and it's time to say goodbye and move on and talk to you the next time online between the lines. So we'll see you soon. Have a great day. Bye bye.